Hello, this is Jacqueline from Jack Knits, and today we're going to talk about the bobble knit stitch. We're going to learn how to do the bobble stitch in a small bobble, a medium-sized bobble, and a large bobble. So let's take a look at how to do each one. All right, we're going to take a look at how to do each size of these bobble stitches. We're going to start with a small, do a medium, and a large size bobble because, of course, with any project, you might want to choose a different size bobble to fit whatever you are working with. After I show all three sizes, I will also explain how to do this bobble stitch in the round in case you're interested in that, and then show you a very fun, unique way that you can incorporate bobble stitches in your knitting projects. So let's take a look first at this small bobble. And let's get to the point where we are going to do our bobble stitch. So with this particular swatch, I'm just doing a garter stitch border, and then let's knit over to this spot here. So this knit stitch is where we're going to do our first small bobble stitch. So we are going to start by knitting our first stitch right into that stitch, but do not take that stitch off your needle, because now we are going to, in that same stitch, knit into the back loop. So in that same stitch, knit into the back loop, and still don't take that stitch off your needle yet, because now we're going to knit again into that stitch into the front loop again. So what we did there is we did a knit in the front, back, and front, all in the same stitch. So you'll see that that one stitch now produced 1, 2, 3 stitches on my right needle. So now we are actually going to turn our work and work on the wrong side of the fabric, and we're going to now just knit those 3 stitches that we created from that one stitch. So 1, 2, 3. We're going to knit those 3. Now we're going to turn our work back to the front side. And now we're going to do some decreases where we will just get back to the one stitch. So to do a double decrease here, we got to get 3 stitches down to 1. We are going to slip that first stitch knitwise, then knit the next 2 stitches together, and then pass that slip stitch over that last knit stitch. And now we're back down to only 1 stitch on the needle, and we created this nice little bobble. So let's knit a couple more stitches and you can see how that looks. Cute little bobble, a nice little small size, nice and dainty. Let's do that one more time so you can see it one more time in action. So here's our stitch where we're going to do our next small bobble. We're going to knit in the front of that stitch. Don't take it off your needle. Knit again in the back of that stitch, but still don't take it off your needle, and knit again in the front of the stitch. So we just made 3 stitches out of that one. Let's turn our work, and now we will need our yarn in the back here. There we go, and knit those 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. Turn our work again, and now we'll do our decreases. So we'll slip that first stitch, knit these 2 stitches together, and pass that first slip stitch over the last knitted stitch to create our bobble. All right, so that is the small bobble. Of course, when you go back on the wrong side row with this stockinette stitch in between, you'll just purl all the stitches, but that creates a really nice small size bobble. So next we'll take a look at kind of a more medium-sized bobble. All right, let's now take a look at our medium-sized bobble. And it's very similar to the small bobble. It just requires a little bit more turning of your work. So let's knit over to the point where we want to make our bobble stitch. Okay, so here's the stitch I want to do my medium-sized bobble. We're going to actually start the very same way we did our small bobble, and that is to knit the stitch without taking it off the needle, knitting into the back of the stitch, that same stitch, so just like we did before, and again in the front of the stitch. So knit in the front, back, and front. Again, we have 3 stitches on our needle instead of the 1. So let's turn our work, And we will again now on the back side knit those 3 stitches. And we will again turn our work again, but instead of now doing the decrease, we are going to add a little bit more bulk to our bobble stitch. So we are going to now purl these 3 stitches. Nothing fancy, just purling those same 3 stitches. We'll turn our work again. And now we will again knit those stitches. So doing a lot of knitting and purling the same stitch on our needle. Okay, for the final time, we will turn it back to the right side, and now we are ready to do the decrease to get those 3 stitches down to 1. We'll do the same double decrease as we did for the small bobble, which is slipping that first stitch off your needle knitwise, then knitting these 2 stitches together and passing that slip stitch over that knit stitch, and that created a bobble, but a little bit bigger one than our small bobble. All right, let's do it one more time for good measure. All right, here's the stitch where we want to do our medium-sized bobble. We are going to knit into the front, into the back, and in the front, all in the same stitch. 3 stitches now on your right needle instead of 1. Turn the work, knit those 3 stitches, turn your work, and we will now purl those stitches. So yarn in front, purl those same 3 stitches, turn your work again, and we will knit those 3 stitches. Turn for the last time to face the right side of our fabric, and now we'll do the decrease. So we'll slip that first stitch, knit the next 2 stitches together, and pass that slip stitch over the knit stitch for our bobble. Let's take a look at them. All right, cute little medium-sized bobbles. Very fun. Let's now go to the large. All right, let's now take a look at how to do this larger bobble, because there's sometimes you just want big bobbles for a big splash in your knitting. So we are going to do this one in a little bit different fashion. We're going to incorporate some different stitches into it, but the basic concept really remains the same, where we are going to be turning our work, knitting some bulk for the bobble, and then doing decreases. For this particular bobble, we'll start right here on this stitch. We are going to actually produce 5 stitches instead of the 3 that we were doing for the small and medium bobble into that 1 stitch. So to do that, we're actually going to do it with purl stitches this time. So bring the yarn to the front, and we're going to purl 1 stitch, but again, don't take it off your needle. Now let's do a yarn over. That's going to create another stitch. Do another purl stitch in that same stitch. Again, don't take it off the needle. Another yarn over, and for the final time, purl into that same stitch, and now you can take that stitch off the needle. So now you can see that we created 5 stitches into that 1 stitch, or from that 1 stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's going to produce a nice big size bobble for us. So let's turn our work to the back side, and now we are going to knit those 5 stitches, just like we did for the other ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's turn our work again, and we are going to purl those 5 stitches. Now let's turn our work, and now we're going to, for the next 2 turns, we are going to do some decreases to get those 5 stitches down to 1. So our first set of decreases is going to start with a slip, slip, knit. So slip 2 stitches knitwise onto your right needle, then transfer those 2 stitches to your left needle. Keep your needle in there because now we're going to knit those 2 stitches through the back loop. That is an SSK, a slip slip knit, and it decreased our stitch count by 1. Now we're going to just knit the next stitch and then knit the next 2 stitches together. That will do another decrease. So now we just have 3 stitches for that bobble stitch instead of 5. Let's turn our work over to the right side and we will do our final decrease where we're actually going to now, with the yarn in front, purl all of those 3 stitches together. So if you can see, I'm going to put my needle in through each of those stitches and purl them all together. That's probably the hardest stitch to do. You got to make sure you can get them all the way through all 3 stitches and then pull it off your needle, and that created our nice large bobble size. All right, so now I'm going to show you, this is doing it flat. I'm going to show you how to do it in the round, and the good news is it's really not much different, really at all, to knitting it flat. But I just wanted to show you so you can get a little bit of feel for how you turn your work when you're working with round needles. All right, let's just briefly take a look at how to do the bobble stitch in the round. And the good news is that it really isn't any different than doing it flat. But I just wanted to kind of show you so you can kind of see what it looks like when you turn your work when working with circular needles and knitting in the round. So let's do the large bobble here in this next stitch. So again, if you remember, we're going to do it with purl stitches. So we're going to, in that first stitch, purl 1, and then instead of taking it off your needle, do a yarn over. Let's purl it a second time into that same stitch, do another yarn over, and the third time purl into that same stitch. So again, we're making those 5 stitches out of 1. And then within the round, same thing as with working it flat, you're just going to turn your work. So now instead of working on the outside of the circle, we are working on the inside of the circle with the wrong side facing us. So we'll just do the knitting 5 stitches, working from the inside of our circle. Knit those 5, turn it again, and now we're back to working on the outside of the circle, and we will purl those stitches. And then turn it back to the inside where we'll do our first set of decreases. So a slip, slip, knit, decrease, SSK, a knit stitch, and then knit those last two stitches together. And we'll turn our work for the final time back to the outside of the circle, and we will do the final decrease of purling those 3 stitches together. So it's really not any different working it in the round as in the flat. You're just gonna work your normal stitches like you normally do with working in the round with a stockinette stitch of knitting every round, and you can incorporate these fun bobble stitches into a hat or anything that you're working flat or in the round. So let me just show you to wrap up here another fun way you can incorporate some bobble stitches into your knitted projects. Here I did a bobble stitch on the very first row after I did the cast on, and you'll see that it really produced a fun, almost like a bobble fringe to the edging of your project. So this would make for a really lovely edge to a scarf or maybe a baby blanket, just really decorative and fun. So again, it's just doing the bobble stitch on the very first row of your knitting and working rib stitches in between those bobble stitches and going forward beyond that. So full written instructions on how to do this little bobble fringe, it will be in the description below on the channel, so you can take a look at how to do that. But this just gives you some alternatives or some creative ways to utilize these bobble or bubble stitches in your knitting. So I hope you take a peek at how to do that as well. So I hope you found this helpful, some really fun ways to incorporate bobble stitches into your knitting and how to do small, medium, and large ones for your next project. Hope you found this helpful, everyone. Thanks for watching. And if you'd like, please subscribe and you'll get tips and techniques all about knitting, fun stitches and fun patterns every week. Thanks so much. Happy knitting.